Hello friends and welcome back to my channel where we mainly discuss thrillers on Thursdays, and today I'm very excited for two reasons. One, we're officially in fall, which means we're getting closer to Halloween, and I don't know about you, but I kind of enjoy the build up to Halloween almost more than I enjoy Halloween itself these days. But I'm also very excited because my absolute favorite type of videos to film on this channel are reviews of horror novels, so that's what we're going to be doing today, and there will be no spoilers as usual. But one of my favorite things to do for you guys is to find underrated horror novels, and this isn't the case here because this is very much a classic horror novel, but I've been thinking lately that I really need to go back and read some classic horror so that I have that knowledge of the staples in this genre. So today, as I said, with no spoilers, we are going to be reviewing The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. So The Haunting of Hill House was published in 1959, and I was doing a little reading on this when I was picking out which classic horror novel I wanted to start off fall with, and I read that Stephen King said that The Haunting of Hill House is one of the finest horror novels of the late 20th century, and the Wall Street Journal went so far as to say that this is now widely regarded as the greatest haunted house story ever written. And I would have to agree, because after having finished this, granted very recently, I finished it an hour ago, so I might still just be in the throes of really enjoying it, but I would go so far as to say that this isn't just one of my favorite horror novels of all time. I would go so far as to say that this is now one of my favorite books of all time. So I'm going to get into summary, pros and cons, again with no spoilers, and then we're also going to talk about the fact that Netflix is making this into a series, and the trailer doesn't look very promising, but I will get into that at the end. So for a very brief summary, Dr. Montague is very interested in the paranormal, and so he sends out letters to people who have witnessed some kind of paranormal event, and he invites them to spend a few weeks, I believe it's in June, although you can correct me if I'm wrong, and he invites these people to come spend a few weeks at a house that he's heard is haunted, and it is called Hill House. So two young women respond. One is Theodora. She's very confident and outgoing and gregarious. And the other woman who responds is Eleanor, and she's very shy and introverted and self-conscious. Those traits are not synonymous. She just happens to be all three. And he also invites a young man named Luke, who is going to be the eventual owner of the house. The story is primarily told from Eleanor's point of view as she gets to know the characters, and they all start to experience some very creepy things in the house. So first, getting into pros, I had previously read one book by Shirley Jackson. I think I have a review of it up, and that is called We Have Always Lived in the Castle, and I did adore that, but for some reason I still forgot how much I just absolutely loved her writing style. It's incredibly beautiful, but also, of course, very creepy, and my favorite line in the entire book, and again, no spoilers, is when Eleanor arrives at the house, and the thought that strikes her mind is the house was vile. And something about that just really struck me, and there were so many instances of that throughout the book where a sentence was so beautiful but also so disturbing. And sentences like that would also creepily get stuck in my head, and the characters also, their minds aren't necessarily in the best place, especially as the book goes on, and you kind of also feel that way as you're reading. And again, talking about her writing, I loved the way the house was described. It's not your stereotypical haunted house. I feel like whenever you see a movie, it's like this grand, beautiful Victorian mansion that just happens to be creepy, but I loved the fact that this house is described as being very hideous. Like, it's an ugly old house, and I kind of wonder if the author of House of Leaves took inspiration from this, because some characteristics kind of overlapped, where rooms just felt too big in some places, too small in others. The house just doesn't make sense, and it's kind of off kilter, or literally off kilter, which makes the characters really uncomfortable. I also thought she did a great job building up a sense of dread. A lot of times when you're watching movies, when you're watching TV shows that are horror, you can feel this sense of dread. I think of particularly movies like Hereditary, where there's silence, and it's that silence that almost is more creepy than when things are actually happening. And this is one of the first horror novels I've read where there really was, you could almost feel the silence as the characters are waiting for something horrifying to happen. And I love the fact that the horror is not straightforward. The horror and the scary things that are happening are very vague. I find that if a horror novel gives everything away at the end, or directly describes what's scary, it can kind of make it less scary for the reader because it doesn't allow them to create anything in their own heads or in their own imagination, and this book definitely leaves a lot to the imagination. If you want a horror novel that just spells everything out for you, this won't be for you. But again, this is genuinely just one of the creepiest, I wouldn't say scariest, but definitely one of the creepiest books I've ever read. And this is kind of switching subjects because we're getting away from talking about creepy things, but I was really surprised how character driven this book was and the things it said about friendship and sense of community, because you really get to know, granted you're in Eleanor's head for most of the book, you really get to know her and you see this friendship develop very, very quickly between her and Theodora, two characters whose personalities are so different. Immediately at the beginning of the book, they all kind of click and they're kind of excited, almost waiting for something to happen. And okay, now getting into cons. As I said, this is one of my new favorite books of all time, so I really don't have many. If I would say anything, I thought the ending was a tiny bit anticlimactic, and my one other con was when, and again, no spoilers, when Dr. Montague's wife arrives. I know that it's meant to be kind of comic relief, but I just thought her character just was in the book a little bit too much for that last third. But overall, and this is probably not surprising, I'm going to give The Haunting of Hill House 5 out of 5 creepy branches. Now talking a little bit about the new Netflix series. I forget when this premieres, I'm assuming sometime in October. And I should say first, I am all for horror TV series on Netflix. I am excited. I'm just also a little nervous about this one. If you guys have watched my channel for any length of time, you will know that I'm not the type of person who says the book is always better. You know, I love Gillian Flynn, but I love Sharp Objects, the TV series, more than the book by a little bit. And I also generally don't care if TV shows or movies change what goes on in the book, but I was just really confused watching the trailer, but it really seems like almost just maybe like 5% of the plot is carrying over from the book. And maybe I'm a little sensitive because The Haunting was terrible. I remember watching that when I was really little and probably shouldn't have been. But to me, and again, the show can prove me wrong, I am excited to still watch it. It could still genuinely be really good, but it does feel like, based off of the trailer, they just took the title of the book because it's a classic and they know people have heard of it, so it'll get their attention, and decided to slap it on a TV series. I'm sure there's more going on there than that. Some of the characters' names are similar, but again, if they're changing it that much, I don't know why they're even really saying it's based off of the book, but we'll see. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. The next time you see a video go up, I will be in Japan. I cannot contain my excitement, so I'm gonna try and upload one vlog while I'm there, but I'm not gonna make any promises. So if you see a Japan vlog on Thursday, yay. If you don't, that's just because I'm enjoying Japan. I'm gonna be mainly in Tokyo, but if you guys have any recommendations for things to do, please let me know. But I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I'll see you all next Thursday. Bye.